Hello and welcome to this session. This is Professor Farhat, in which we will discuss other itemized deductions on Schedule A. Now, from the term other itemized deduction, it means those deductions don't fit anywhere. They represent a category of it by itself. It's a narrow category that do not fall under medical expenses, taxes, interest, or charitable contribution. Also, it doesn't fit under casualty and loss. And the reason I want to cover it separately is because under casualty and theft losses, we discuss personal casualty and theft losses. And this is what we discussed in the prior session. In this session, we're going to see also casualty losses here, but theft as well, but from a different perspective. That's why I want to keep casualty and theft losses, line 15, separate from line 16. I could have combined them together, but there's a specific reason, and once we get to that, I will emphasize that point. So over time, though, this category, this line here, this category, other itemized deduction, over time, and I'm going to give you a brief overview about this, has been significantly reduced by legislative changes, and only a limited number of items remain deductible under the current law. So back in the old days, basically this category had many deductions, and I'm going to go over them real quick, just kind of give you perspective, a little bit of a historical perspective, and tell you where do we stand now when it comes to other deductions. Now keep in mind, this is Schedule A. When do we use Schedule A? When the total itemized deduction greater than the standard deduction. What's the standard deduction? The standard deduction is given on your 1040 or given to you by the government, but you can see it clearly on 1040 page 2. For example, for the sake of illustration, this is 2025. Again, this could be a different year. The standard deduction for single was $15,750. So in order to take advantage of all these deductions, line 17, if you're single, has to be greater than $15,750. Otherwise, you will take $15,750. If you're married filing jointly, you have a different one, $31,500. One more time, you could be listening to this recording in 2028, and the amount will differ. It doesn't make a difference. The concept is the same, but in this session, we'll focus on other itemized deductions specifically. Let's go ahead and get started. Before we proceed any further, I have a public announcement about my company, FarhatLectures.com. You are here because you are serious about mastering taxation. Whether you are taking a tax course, studying for the CPA exam, or enrolled agent, tax feels overwhelming, not because it's impossible, but because it's dense, detailed, and often taught at a pace that doesn't match the way you learn. The rules can feel disconnected, and the logic isn't always explained clearly. At Farhat Lectures, we slow it down. We explain the why behind the rules, break concept into simple steps, and rebuild your understanding from the ground up without assuming any prior knowledge. When explanation matches your learning, everything changes. The confusion fades, the rules start to connect, and tax becomes manageable. If you are ready to understand tax with clarity and confidence, start your free trial at farhatlectures.com, and let's build your tax foundation together. So the first thing, as I promised, I'm going to give you a brief historical overview, truly brief one. Before 2017, what happened in 2017? President Trump introduced the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Before that, taxpayers were permitted to deduct several expenses classified as miscellaneous itemized deduction, provided that they exceed 2% of adjusted gross income. And those expenses included unreimbursed employee business expense, tax preparation fees, investment expense other than interest, hobby losses limited to income. These deductions were subject, again, to 2% AGI floor. It means you can only take them only if your AGI times 2% equal to a number, and they have to be more than that 2%, more than that 2% of the AGI. And they used to be tested. That's gone. Here comes 2017, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act from President Trump. Miscellaneous itemized deduction were suspended till 2025. Therefore, all these expenses are no longer deductible. However, income hobbies and investments remain taxable. The income from them, even though the related expenses generally cannot be deducted. So there was a little bit of a mismatch, but we'll talk about hobby losses later on in a separate recording. Here comes the one beautiful Bill Act, OBBA, what happened is those suspension are permanent. So the OBBA makes the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act suspension of miscellaneous deduction subject to the 2% floor permanent. Permanent means that's it. You can no longer take those deduction. The law is no longer temporary. It was from 2018 to 2025. Now, 2025 going forward, this becomes the law. It's no longer a temporary thing. It's a permanent thing. However, the law still allowed gambling losses, and we're going to see there's a new rule about gambling losses. Casualty / theft losses for income producing property. And this is why I covered this line 16 separately from line 15. In line 15, we have casualty and theft losses for personal use property. Line 16 deals with income producing property, and when you cover them together, some students get confused. What's going on? What are the rules for this versus that? So I'm going to keep them separate. So personal use, go to the prior recording, they're listed on line 15. Line 16 will cover income producing property. Also unrecovered annuity investment. Then President Trump added a new deduction called the Educator expense itemized deduction. And I touched upon this when I talked about the Educator expense adjustment, and I said the adjustments you can take, $350 or $400 or whatever that amount for AGI. Then if you spend more than the amount that you can deduct for AGI, let's assume you spent $1,000 and for that year it happens to be $400, which is, we don't know if it's $400 or not because the maximum amount right now is $350 as per the new law. What's left is $600. So what you can do, you can take this additional $600 that you could not deduct for AGI, and you hope it will be deducted from AGI on Schedule A. So the government says, since you spend a lot of money, we would allow you some money up front for AGI. Whatever's left, we hope you can take it from AGI. Now let's take a look at an example that shows us how this deduction works. So let's assume a high income professional buys an investment painting and keeps it in a safe box for purely appreciation purposes, not as part of an art dealer business. So this individual got some extra money and bought a piece of art. Great, investment painting. Now, he doesn't prepare Schedule C, it's not a rental property, it's basically income producing. He's hoping that he's gonna make some money out of this. The painting is totally destroyed in a flood at the storage facility. So immediately before the flood, the painting had a value of $8,000. He paid for it $12,000. How much can he take in these losses on line 16? So what's the loss? The loss is the lower of adjusted basis $12,000, or the reduction in fair market value after. The fair market value after went from 8,000 to 0. It's 8,000. 8,000 versus 12,000 is 8,000. Once again, just to kind of drive the point home, because the painting is held for production of income but not part of a trade or a business, the $8,000 loss is deducted as other itemized deduction on Schedule A, line 16, as we saw earlier, not as a Schedule C business deduction. Now let's change the example a little bit, and let's assume the flood damages but does not destroy the painting, and later it was appraised. So the pre-flood, let's assume the pre-flood fair market value is 13,000, the adjusted basis is 11, and the fair market value after the flood is 7. So the decline in value is 6,000, the value before and the value after. The adjusted basis is 13, so deductible casualty loss is the lower of these two. 6,000 is lower. 6,000 is the lesser of the adjusted basis or the decline in value. And here we're assuming no insurance. Again, because the painting is income producing, it goes on Schedule A, not Schedule C. Now let's talk about gambling losses. Gambling losses are deductible as an itemized deduction only up to the gambling winnings. Great. Starting 2026, now this is new. So anything before 2026, the statement is correct. Starting 2026, under the one big beautiful bill, only up to 90% of the qualified losses are deductible, leaving at least 10% of the winning taxable. How does it work? So let's assume we had a break-even player. $1,000 in winning, $10,000 in losses. Under the old rule, those two will wipe themselves out and be zero. What we do now is the winnings are taxable. Then for the losses, we can take up to 90% of the losses. So we take 90% of the losses is 9,000. There's a net gambling taxable income of 1,000. Even though you broke even in cash, 10% of the winning is taxable. Let's take a look at another example. We have winning of 1,000, losses of 5,000. Well, all the winnings are taxable, and with the losses, we have to take only 90% of the losses, 4,500. What do we end up with? We end up with net taxable of 5,500. Remember, the losses, you can take 90% of them. Here, more than 10% of your winning are taxable because your losses were already smaller. Your winning smaller than your winning. The 90% rule just makes it a bit worse. Let's look at example 3. Big loser. You have winnings of 5,000, losses of 20,000. You're always a loser if you gamble. Well, up to the winnings, you can deduct at most 5,000, although you lost 20,000. Here's what's going to happen. The 90% is 90% times 5,000 is 4,500. So here's what's going to happen. The tax result, the income is 5,000. Those are the winning. Deduction is 4,500. Although you had more deduction, more losses, you're still going to come up with, you're going to have to pay the bill for the $500, which is 10% of your winning. You lost a lot overall, but you still end up with at least 10% of your winning. 500 taxable. The law won't let you deduct the full amount of losses. You are still responsible for 10% of the winning. Or you can take the, looking at it another way, 90% of your losses are deductible up to still 10% of your winning will be taxable. Educator expense as an itemized deduction. This is the new one. The one big beautiful bill adds a new educator expense itemized deduction that's not subject to the 2% floor. That's 2%, it's gone. It's no longer apply. It was suspended, now it's permanent. And this is separate from above the line adjustment we covered when we covered the adjustment for the educator expense. Assuming you spent $1,000 on qualified educator expense, you deducted $350 for AGI on Schedule 1. What's left is $650. Now this $650 before you couldn't use it for anything. Now you can take it as an itemized deduction, not subject to any AGI limitation. Let's take a look at this multiple choice question from farhatlectures.com. Under the one big beautiful bill, which of the following statements about itemized deduction beginning 2026 is correct? So we're looking at the one big beautiful bill, the itemized deduction, in beginning 2026. Let's start with A. Gambling losses are fully deductible against gambling winning as an itemized deduction. No. This used to be the old rule. It's out. B. Miscellaneous itemized deductions subject to the 2% AGI floor. You can stop right here. We no longer have miscellaneous itemized deductions subject to the 2% floor. That category is gone. I don't even have to read the remainder of this. This is out. I'm down to 50-50. Gambling losses are limited to 90% of gambling losses, then further limited to the amount of gambling winning. Unreimbursed educator expense above the statutory above the line cap may be claimed as an itemized deduction not subject to the 2% floor. That is correct. Your losses are limited to 90% of your gambling losses. You cannot deduct any more than that, and you still have to get 10% of your winning taxable regardless, even if your losses are more. And if you have unreimbursed education expense, you could not take above the line, you can claim not subject to any floor. C is the best answer so far. D, gambling losses are no longer deductible at all. Not at all. Not at all. That's incorrect. But all unreimbursed employee business expense, that's all gone. Unreimbursed employee business expense, that's gone. That's no longer deductible on Schedule A with the one big beautiful bill. What should you do now? Whether you are taking this as an accounting course, studying for the CPA exam, studying for the EA exam, go to Farhat Lectures, look at additional multiple choice lectures, resources, AI resources to explain the topic, explain correct and incorrect answer, create new MCQs, invest in yourself. Don't gamble, and God bless.